What's up, everyone? Welcome on into onesoccer.ca. You're watching One Soccer Today. Andy, Ollie, Gareth with you as always. And gentlemen, the women are back in action. They're on the pitch. They're in beautiful Spain, the south of Spain, in fact, and they're playing two friendlies. First up was Argentina on Thursday. No score after the first 45, but the Canadians taking advantage of an Argentinian side that went down to 10 players. 2-0. They are victorious. And substitutions scored the goals. Evelyn Vienne gets in. She scores a goal. Chloe Lacasse gets her first for Canada. Ollie, you and I were working that game together, so I'll just start with you. What's the biggest takeaway you got from that game? Big picture.
I think that, well, I'll give you two. Firstly, that these games are still a bit of a struggle for Canada in certain moments. It got better in the second half, but obviously a red card helped that. So there's still work to do. And I think these games aren't particularly thrilling to watch at times because we know it's just Canada expect to win. Canada have all of the ball. And it's kind of just a case of being patient and waiting to break these teams down. But I think they're a necessary exercise just because there still is plenty of room for improvement in Canada's performances against these types of opponents. But on the positive side, I think you can say that there's a lot more depth to this Canada team, it feels like now, than maybe we've seen in the past. You know, when you look at the injury list for this game, some of the key players missing, you look at how strong the starting lineup still was, and then also the way they were able to impact the game off the bench as well with some of the substitutes. I think that bodes well for Canada. There's more of a pool developing, more competition in the squad, I think, than we've maybe seen in previous years.
Yeah, I'm not sure how much these games help, to be honest with you. You're asking, these women to leave their club teams. They were in Australia, now they're in Spain to play who in this window? Australia is one thing. You're playing the World Cup hosts, a top 15, top 10 nation in the world. These two sides are both outside the top 30. And based on the play, you learn nothing about the Canada back four. Kaylin Sheridan could have had an espresso, a cup of, she could have had multiple Java, and that would have been great. It's there's very little to learn and very little to gain from these games. Yes, if you're a fringe player, if you're a depth player, Ollie, I will have that it gives an opportunity for some players to step up. And I don't know what it is about Evelyn Vienne and Chloe Lacasse, but they just look like proper strikers, don't they? They kind of add something that Canada's missed in the past, where it just looks like just their ability to get into the dirty areas and be in the right spot at the right time. I'm not sure Canada's had that for a while since Sinclair's drifted to a deeper position. I don't think Heidem is that type of player. So they bring something different. So you kind of learn things around the fringes, but how big of a role these players will play come 9 months from now, 10 months from now, I'm not quite sure. That remains to be seen. I think both would due to play at a little bit of a higher level, a little bit of a better level. It might help their standing in the team, but I thought both showed well coming off the bench and scoring goals. And, if you're scoring goals for this Canada team, then you're going to make some kind of impression, won't you?
Yeah, and I mean, going back to scoring goals, obviously in the CONCACAF Championship, which was the qualifier for the World Cup and the Olympics, I mean, Julia Grosso really shone in that one. In fact, the midfielders in general in that tournament were really shining for Canada when it came to scoring goals. Adriana Leon really looked good in that window where they took on Australia both times in September. And now we're talking so far about Vienne and Lacasse getting goals. So where are you when it comes to goal scoring, Gareth? Do you feel the Canadians have solved that? Are you feeling pretty confident about it, or do you want to see more?
Don't know. We need to see more. What I do like is Bev Priestman going back to Grosso and Fleming in the midfield, because I think it's going to naturally create more chances. The more that those two players play with one another, learn their little intricacies about each other's game, and are able to then go in and bring that into the attack, then we'll see a little bit more. But like Ollie said, with so many players missing out of action that might be playing key roles, like what we saw Janine Becky in this game play her fifth or sixth position in maybe her last dozen games. It's ridiculous. At some point, things are going to have to be more cemented in terms of how the way that this team plays and who's going to play what role in the team. But you're starting to see it come together. Again, to Ollie's point, the big win is some of these younger players, these players on the periphery getting important national team minutes.
Yeah, I would say I feel quite a bit better about the attacking side of the team. Maybe not specifically out of this game, but over the past couple of months, based on what we've seen in Australia and also the impacts that some of the players, particularly again off the bench, made against Argentina. like, firstly, I think Adriana Leon has taken a massive step forward and is now a player who is pretty much in pen in the starting lineup with
playing for a top club now, Ollie. That's why.
that surely helps. The Old Trafford atmosphere has really boosted her. She's someone who's getting into really good goal scoring positions every single game. Looks like a constant threat, I think, regardless of who they're playing. So that's a big positive for me. And then I agree with Wheels. Like, you see something in Vienne and Lacasse, and okay, it's going to be tested against higher quality opponents, and we'll see how it stacks up there. But they're just willing to get in the 6-yard box, to go in kind of the congested, busy areas where you might get kicked, you might get bumped over a little bit, but that's where the goals are scored. And I think we're seeing that consistently from both of them. The willingness to go in those areas, to be aggressive, to be a bit more scrappy and score more ugly goals, which I don't think Canada have done a whole lot of. So I do feel better about that side of the team, but with the caveat that obviously it's going to be tested against stronger opponents going forwards.
Yeah, and next up is going to be Morocco on Monday. And I guess, what is it, Ollie, that you want to see from this team? Because I do agree with you, Gareth. I mean, when you're taking on opponents that are just outside of the top 30 in ranking, what is it that you're really learning about your squad? I mean, I guess if you look at it glass half full, Bev Priestman gets to try players in new positions like Janine Becky. She gets to bring in these substitutions and see how they can just get comfortable, right? Get their feet under them, build that confidence, get these wins. So what is it that you want to see against Morocco, Ollie, just for the Canadians to continue building on this?
Well, I mentioned it in the post-game show. I want to see, how they create chances, continue to improve and develop. And we saw glimpses of it against Argentina. The Vienne goal, or the own goal in particular, I think was a really nice bit of combination play where players are on the same wavelength. Players are playing off each other, 1-2 touch very quickly. I think there was a bit of a lack of that at times in the Argentina game. Like, the ball would come into kind of the space just in front of the opposition penalty area. Too many players receiving the ball with their back to goal rather than on the half turn. Too many players needing too many touches in those areas where there is no space and no time. Not enough kind of second runs happening when those passes happen to then give the player on the ball a quick option to move it again. Like, those things have got to be quicker and got to be sharper. And I've got to think that'll be a focus for Bev Priestman over the next couple of days before that game.
Yeah, there'll be objectives in terms of gameplay, game model, having partnerships on the field continue to grow and flourish. That's what you do for the majority of the game, and then try to get some of the young players minutes. I'd love to see Jane Rose come back in again after she did really well in that final game against Australia. I'm not sure how much you'll have to do anyways, so perhaps it does a little bit of a disservice to her, but get some rotation, bring in some fresh legs, some fresh faces, and allow some to have that, another Canadian experience.
All right. So the Canadian women, again, will be in action Monday. We'll get you started before you dive into your Thanksgiving lunch, dinner, whatever it is. Monday, be sure to join us 10 a.m. Eastern time right here on One Soccer.